ready.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Thursday. How's everybody doing today? Well, let's start with precious metals, shall we? SGB and is going to be one of the title sponsors of the Cornerstone Forum, returning March 28th, 2026. So appreciate them being a part of it once again. And when it comes to precious metals, if you're wanting to find out anything to do with it, you should go down in the show notes, text or email Grahame for details on any questions you may have around buying, selling, storing, or using your retirement accounts to invest in precious metals. If you've been paying attention to the price of silver, the price of gold, they are on the climb. And they've been doing that now for quite some time. And when you look at our fearless leader here in Canada, I don't think we have any faith that all of a sudden they're going to do things that's going to curb, the flow of money into other things. And I don't know, precious metals, you might just want to take a look. I assume a lot of you already have, but silvergoldbull.ca.com. And always reach out to Grahame. I can sit here and jibber-jabber on about different things when it comes to precious metals, but you might as well go right to the source, and he can walk you through anything to do with silver, gold, and other precious metals. silvergoldbull.ca.com. And go take a look at what they have to offer. And make sure to reference the Shaun Newman Podcast while you're doing it. Guardian Plumbing and Heating. These guys have been keeping homes, farms, and businesses running smoothly since 2010. To all you farmers still out in the field, this one's for you. Guardian's efficient grain dryers and Guardian power stations aren't just available here. They're available all across Canada. The power station is an absolute game changer, giving you 2-for-1 utilities, heat and electricity from the same reliable system. It's an innovative way to keep your operation running efficiently and save on energy costs. Guardian Plumbing and Heating, they've been protecting their customers from the unexpected through innovative solutions. To find out more, go to guardianplumbing.ca. Ignite Distribution is a high-service supply company based in Wainwright, Alberta. They specialize in automotive parts and a wide range of additional products, including safety equipment, welding supplies, fasteners, and janitorial items. They operate as a Napa Auto Parts. You can get in touch with Shane Stafford and his team, 780-842-3433, and be on the lookout for their huge sale coming early next year. We'll be starting to talk about how you can get super, super good deals through Ignite Distribution. But for everything else, reach out to Shane Stafford. They don't come better than him, and that's 780-842-3433. You can reserve your free ticket for the Expat Money Summit. If you care about liberty and the right to control your own future, you'll enjoy the group that Mikkel Thorpe is putting together. From October 10th to 12th, Mikkel Thorpe, host of the Expat Money Show and speaker at the first Cornerstone Forum, is bringing together top experts from around the world for the Expat Money Online Summit, and it's completely free to attend. You'll learn how to legally protect your wealth and secure second residencies and citizenships, reduce your tax burden, and own property abroad, all to safeguard your freedom. This year's focus is Latin America, and whether you're looking for an exit plan now or want to secure your offshore, Plan B is political insurance. This event is an absolute essential for you to attend, and it's all free. And you can get that at expatmoneysummit.com. It's all down in the show notes if you want more information. Substack, it's free to subscribe to. Week in Review on Sundays at 5 p.m. And then also, if you're, you like what the SMP does and you want to help support, you can also become a paid member. We try and stick some behind-the-scenes footage of different things going on for all you paid subscribers. Recently, we unveiled the new table that's going to be at the new studio, so that's exciting times. The Cornerstone Forum is heading back to Calgary March 28th in Calgary. We're just signing the paperwork here in the next 24 hours, so that's exciting, and we'll be able to unveil a location. We'll be able to unveil some of the speakers. We'll be able to unveil the ticket prices and a whole lot of different things. I know this year we're looking at having a Friday night social. That way people coming in have something to do Friday night. And Sunday, there's a very, very good chance there will be a couple different things going on if you want to stick around and get a little more one-on-one with some of the speakers. So it's very close to announcing all of that. A couple of things you might want to put on your calendar as well. The Prairie Rising Forum is October 18th in Regina, Saskatchewan. That's coming up right away. I'm going to be emceeing, hosting it, facilitating it, and whatever word you want to put on it. There's a bunch of different things that they're talking about there. With a little bit more of a Saskatchewan twist. economic realities, opportunities, legal path to independence, public engagement, power of referendum, the media, misinformation, controlling the narrative, and some of the speakers coming to it. Martin Armstrong, I think, should be noted. But coming in is Tiana Truthseeker, which I'm excited to run in her again. Tom Marazzo, Brett Olin, Bryce Wade, Chris Barber is going to be there. Zach Schmidt, if he's been a former podcast guest. Jamie Sinclair is going to be speaking. So there's some different speakers coming to that. If you're wanting to get tickets, it's down in the show notes, but prairierisingforum.ca. And I think tickets are on sale for about 10 more days, folks. So if you're interested in getting to that, there's an excellent lineup going to be there. I'm going to be the master of ceremonies, making sure it hopefully goes smoothly. And would love to see you there. Another one coming up, Quick Dick McDick Live in Lashburn, November 22nd. That's a fundraiser for the Lashburn Elementary School. They're building a new playground. You can get tickets at showpass.com/Lashburn. And once again, all the proceeds going to a new playground for the elementary school. And then January 17th, the Mash Spiel is coming to Kalmar, Alberta, which is just west of Leduc. And we're hoping to have some interesting folks there. We're going to be doing a curling for the day. I suck at it. I've already talked to a bunch of you. And if you're worried about your skill level, don't worry. I will be the worst. I'll make you all feel right about coming and throwing a couple of curling rocks. And that should be a fun. We're just trying to get the community together for the mashup. So if you're interested in that, shoot me a text. We'll have more details here very soon coming for that. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, X, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave a review. Folks, if you're having fun with the show, make sure to just do all the things and appreciate your support. And, yeah, let's get on to that tale of the tape. Today's guest is a retired Canadian military sergeant who served as a member of the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. He spent 20 years in the Canadian military and completed 4 tours overseas. I'm talking about Chuck Prodonick. So buckle up. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Shaun Newman Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Chuck Prodonick. Chuck, thanks for being back in studio, sir.
Good to see you, brother. Thanks for having me.
We're doing this right off the hop, all right? Yeah. Everybody knows when I have somebody in studio, and Chuck seems to be the big winner on this. Yeah, yes, they get a 1-ounce silver coin. So, sir.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, I'm going to add this to my my hoard. Sometimes I pour it out and run my fingers through it.
Yes.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, as everybody, I should clarify, I assume everybody knows by now, but if you come in studio, a 1-ounce silver coin is what we give out. SGB has been very kind on that. And with the prices of silver, the prices of gold right now, if we haven't been paying attention to that, just go to silvergoldbull.ca.com and just check out their charts. If you Google it, chancel it, it's the first one to count up. But like the old... it just keeps going up.
It's
and
still
up.
climbing.
And when you look at what our country is doing, I'm like, we're the world for that matter's doing. You're like, that isn't going down anytime soon.
No.
Right? Like it's only going to go higher. So
I started into this stuff about close to 20 years ago when spot price had it just over $20 roughly. And it's climbing and climbing. Now this isn't, I don't ever compare this physical back up to like silver and gold to Bitcoin, where that does its own thing. I'm not trying to dissuade people from that. Get into it if you want, but the physical thing in your hand is I'll take that all day long.
As we sit here today, oh come on, 65.39 Canadian for an ounce of silver. So when you talk about 20 years, you know.
That's, yeah.
Like, and gold is over $5,000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
53. So you know, and I just look at the charts and you just see the upward trend and you go.
And that's a drastic upward trend here lately.
Yeah.
Which that's a pattern of life to watch for too. I mean, historically, when those precious metals become more valuable in a shorter distance of time, things are probably moving around behind the scenes. I don't know what they all are. I think anybody that's watching the world right now knows there's a tectonic shift happening one way or the other. I don't want to use ostriches as the canary in the coal mine, another bird, but they kind of are for what's going on in Canada. I don't think there's anybody right now that isn't watching what's going on out there. For a variety of reasons, and we all kind of feel, or at least the people I talk to day in and day out, that's an overall bellwether for where we sit right now. We all kind of feel like we're the ostriches that have no voice. They're these things could have been studied and were supposed to have been studied for the COVID antibodies that they've apparently got, surviving what they survived. And here we sit with the food agency, somehow with the all being power that they are, shutting them down to cull them. You watch a buddy of mine, a veteran, Mike Rood, out there doing what he's doing, and he's kind of, this morning was it late last night or this morning, they exposed that all the vehicles going in with the RCMP are taping their license plates. Never seen that before in the country. Apparently, as long as you're under RCMP protection, you can tape up your license plate if you feel threatened. So Mike was asking them on camera, like, well, what if I feel threatened? I guess I can tape up my plate. I mean, he's being a little tongue-in-cheek about it, but I mean,
That's strange.
We can break all these rules. We can bend all these rules just because we say so. He said some other stuff too. You can see the videos online. He's not afraid to speak his mind. That's for sure.
I just had Martin Armstrong on,
mm-hmm.
and I come back to those conversations over and over again because he's been on, I don't know how many times at this point, but he always talks about 2032 as being this crescendo of we're going to go one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And I've said this lots recently that I'm like, well, what happens between here and there to get us to that point? And he's like, I don't know. How the heck would I know? I'm just telling you what the computer says. And I chuckle because it's ostriches in Canada that have been the latest catalyst, right? It was the crossbow in Lindsay, Ontario, the guy breaking in, and then it was the same week the guy raping the 3-year-old.
Yeah. And
like the people being outside the prison saying, give them to us.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward, what has it been? Maybe 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you got the ostrich thing drawing not only Canadian, worldwide, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, these red flags are just popping up everywhere, and I don't know what comes. You talk about patterns of life, and watching it, like here we are, and I'm like, well, what's the next one to pop off?
There's no predictor for it, except that I would have to say, and this is just me guessing and spitballing with some buddies, a few of them seem to think that Carnage is going to call a pretty quick election at some point here. He needs the majority, and he's probably looking at the polling going, well, I can maybe sneak a majority if they play their liberal game again, and if they pull in a majority, because right now they're trialing the gun grab in, where is it, Cape Breton. What a great, wonder why they picked Cape Breton. Little island, fairly docile population.
That's where Jeff Evely is.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what goes on with that. Maybe he'll take his weapons for a walk in the woods or something. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with this turn-in. We'll see what goes on with it. We'll see the pressure they put on people. They're already landlocked into a spot. You already feel a little bit. You can feel like Great Britain, where you're mighty and strong because you're a landlocked island, or you can feel segregated from the rest of the country, where, well, what do we do now? And they picked this spot probably for a lot of those psychological reasons, and we'll see what happens with it. And right now there's still an amnesty till I think the end of October. So I think the end of October. I could be off on that. One of the CCFR people would know better. But so they don't technically have to hand anything in. We'll see if they do. And this is all being, I wouldn't say it's being run by that minister, the Tamil Tiger guy there, Gary Abacus, whatever the hell his last name. There's got about 15 syllables and consonants and every other damn thing in it. Like, that guy there didn't even know what an RPAL was. Didn't know what a PAL RPAL was. Doesn't know what anything is. Should have resigned the second it was explained to everybody in Canada that he'd written letters of endorsement for Tamil Tigers to get citizenship to this country. Like what the hell? Like $16 orange juice gets a guy fired if he's conservative, but this Muppet's endorsing terrorists to come live here, who are apparently living here, and now he's in charge of taking our guns?
You know,
are you kidding? Where are we living?
Did you see the guy did he get arrested, folks? I think he got arrested for calling a lady in UK a Muppet.
Mm-hmm.
And my initial thought was, Chuck would endorse that.
I endorse that. I mean, that's where we learned it from. I mean, it's an insult that sticks. And I've worked with a lot of British soldiers, and any veteran that's worked with the British military before, when you hear them say Muppet, that's like, you know, you're cutting bone apart with that, you know, like not the first time, but one of the times I'd heard it and it wasn't directed at me, although it was being said to me by a British sergeant major about some European folks that we'd escorted in, and I turned them over to him, and I'm talking, this dude is your typical movie-worthy British sergeant major, big, loud, lanky, intimidating, scary dude, and we're in Afghanistan, and I'm like, here's the guys we brought in for you. I'm kind of joking about it, like, look at these idiots. You know, they needed us two sections of Canadians and 2 vehicles to go bring in about 50 vehicles worth of these dudes. I'm not going to say which country they were, but they're useless. Europe. And I'm like, here they go, sir. And he's like, just glaring at me, and he's not mad at me. He's mad that this is what he's taking into Helmand province. And he's like, these fucking Muppets. And I'm like, oh, and I'm going to go now. I'm going to run away from you. I'm charging machine guns every other day, but I'm going to run from this guy because he's just used the word Muppets in a way that I felt like I'd been shot, you know, and I'm like, it works. And these people are Muppets. They're absolute.
Our leadership are
Muppets. And I'm talking the conservative side, the liberal side, all sides, you know. I'm not a big guy. I'm not a guy that likes to ever say, well, we can't vote our way out of it. I don't see a voting strategy out of this. Do you? Because there's like one conservative MP speaking up about the ostriches. One. I think there's one that's actually been there, been like, what the hell? They wouldn't even, the food agency, I don't remember their acronym, some acronym or other for our food agency, basically mini Gestapo guys, they don't even have a spokesperson dealing with the media, the politicians, no one. You imagine that. So all this looks like is they're raising the fence higher and higher and higher with the hay bales and the fencing they've put up there. So everybody else is getting out higher and higher scissor lifts to try and look in and what's going on. And by all accounts, those birds are suffering. Now, even if you think, oh, we should get rid of these animals for some unscientific reason, because there's no science that's backing this on any front that's backing this. The way they're being treated. I grew up on a farm. Anybody that hunts is usually the kindest people towards animals, other than the ones you're shooting that you're eating. I mean, and that's done as humanely as possible. You don't treat those animals with anything less than respect and dignity, and that's not what's happening to these roughly 400 birds. It's just something wrong with it all. Like, there's something really wrong with it. And if you're an RCM, and what is a couple hours away, there's a missing 5-year-old that's been missing 8, 9, 10 days now. You think they're flying drones over to look for that kid and all the other stuff going on in the meantime? I don't think so.
Yeah, I looked it up. It's 7 hours away, but in this country, that might as well be a couple hours away.
Yeah.
And you got roughly 100 RCMP, roughly, somewhere in that range, working 24/7. What did Katie say? Roughly 70 offers on day shift and another 30 on night shift or whatever at the farm.
Yeah.
And, you got a missing kid. And it's funny because one of the listeners had text me. I didn't immediately clue in, but he's on search and rescue and wasn't allowed to give me any details. Yeah. But, I'm like, oh, we haven't found this kid? It's like, well, you'd think that would be top priority. Because even if you think the bird should be killed,
you can pause that.
You can pause that for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still going to be there.
Yeah.
They're
not flying away, apparently. They're ostriches. Like, they're not going nowhere, but the priority is that. That says everything you need to know about our government. I'm talking conservative and liberal side. Liberals are a lost cause anyway. They're junk. But the conservatives, they ain't no better. They ain't no better. We got Pierre back in there. Oh, good. Like, that ain't going to do nothing. He hasn't said nothing about the birds. He goes off about a few things here and there, some really great tweets again. And, you know, anybody that was a staunch Pierre guy, which I was, there's no faith in that anymore. Like, there's none in that. We just need to be done with the rest of Canada. We need to separate this shit out. Let them do their own thing. Danielle Smith is far from perfect, but I give her credit when she does speak up on some important issues. She generally is getting it right. Immigration, not so much. She seems to want to increase this shit somehow. It's unfathomable to me. We're already overburdened, overloaded. We don't need any more. We need to start sending back. Return to sender. We are at that point. We've increased our population in this country by almost 35% over the last, I think, less than 10 years. What is that? Everything that was already broken and busted or failing is completely unusable now. We can talk about that ad nauseum. But thankfully we have her and her stance on either keeping our guns and not taking part in the gun grab. Thankfully, huge. Her stuff with the puberty blockers and the school issues and that she's took a pretty firm stance on and is very directly spoken about, huge. And there's a bunch of other issues too where she's actually, you know, gets it. If we didn't have her, I don't know where we'd be. We'd be no better than any other province at this point, except for the pioneering mentality that the West generally encompasses. I mean, Edmonton's a shithole. It's full of left-wing loons, but you know, you get outside of a major urban area and get to the normal folk. We just want to be done with this. You know, I don't think there's, now if Jamie was sitting here, I can hear him right now.
Shout out to Jamie.
Shout out to Jamie. Love you, brother. He still sees this as salvageable. This country is salvageable. And I know a lot of people do.
I know. You know, it's funny. I can't speak for Jamie. Yeah. And you know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to text me 600 times.
Oh, my phone's blowing up right now.
Yeah, ready to go. But he's the guy who positioned the idea in my brain probably 4 years ago, almost to the date, that Western Canada just has different values than Eastern Canada.
Yes.
He already saw it back then. So I actually don't know if, you know, he wants Canada to work. I think a lot of us want Canada to work.
I did. I went to war. So did he. So did a lot of other people. I think it was Mike Rood was saying on a film the other day, about 144,000 Canadians since World War I have died in service to this country. That either sounds like an astronomical number or not a big number when you put it in perspective of things. But put it in the perspective of our population at the time. World War I, we had 10 million, 9-point-something million people, 1 million people in uniform. No one else pumps 10% of a population into uniform except us. You know, sends and then gets given the worst jobs, does them when everybody else has failed. Canadians do them. In every war since then, same thing. The worst areas of operation, Canadians get it done. Every time. Outnumbered, doesn't matter. Get it done. And like Mike was saying, you have to watch his videos on the Twitter. We went to war for this shit, to watch what's going on with the RCMP and the food agency, or some FBI, DHS, and all-in-one combination of bullshit, secret acronym name, dairy cartel-infused syrup suckers, going after these birds. Are you kidding me? That's I went to war so you come after my guns here? I'm the problem here? Legal gun owners in Canada are the problem here? You got to come after us. I went to war for this shit? Now I'm going to already hear, you know, some left-wing nut job out there going, well, you don't have a right to own those guns. So I might not. Yeah, because we live under a constitutional monarchy, which is an ad hoc system to begin with this bullshit Charter of Rights, it is a bullshit Charter of Rights. Just kind of smudged in there somehow, like, we're just going to make that fit. None of that works. None of it fits. It's a junk system to begin with. We've just kind of trundled along for, 160 odd years or whatever it's been now, just kind of making it work. We're not a real country. That's why nobody can identify our Canadian identity, because we're not really a country. We're the leftovers of a British fragmented empire that somehow America said or decided at some point, and don't count the War of 1812 where they came up here and Canada the British kicked them back then. It wasn't Canadians. Yeah, okay, we're Canadians, British, whatever, colonial part of the empire we were at that point. Yeah, we kicked them back. And some people hold on to this as like, oh, we did all this stuff and then we went and burnt their White House. Like, okay, yeah, fine. But for some reason in the intervening time, when they certainly could have 100 years ago and still could today, walk up here and occupy us in a heartbeat and haven't, we forged this identity of not being Americans. That's not good enough. That isn't good enough. It isn't anything. It's why we can't rally as a country. It's why as a country overall that's so spread out and so big and so different, and the value system is so different, we can't rally. We won't rally. It takes a war to rally the country, unfortunately. And even then, we didn't rally in the last one. That's why guys like Jamie and I went over time and again. I have friends that went over there 4 fucking times. 4 times. Because ain't nobody joining. And certainly ain't nobody joining now. Nobody's staying. It's worse than it was then.
Old Chuck's fired up this morning.
Chuck's got a lot of fatigue with a lot of stuff. Yeah. A lot of fatigue with... I'm going to be all over the place today. I can tell already. I'm not even looped up and loaded. Hopped up on Mountain Dew. But so my daughter, she takes a hen day every day to go to work. And you see every day and in the news, on Twitter and every other news outlet, some new Canadians and their driving skills. And especially in the big trucks. She was behind, a few hundred meters behind on the hen day, a couple months, maybe it's a month ago now, where that dude with a flatbed with a D9 or dozer, maybe bigger than a D9, I think, smacked into the overpass, stuck it there. Again, that same overpass got hit a year ago. And I'm like, hey, I'm thinking, this never used to happen like this. And you're noticing. And if you're a noticer, you're going to get labeled. If you start to notice the trends, you're going to be, well, you can't notice that, you racist asshole. I don't give a shit. I don't give a liquid shit. So, I'm on my way here. And I'm leaving. I'm on the Yellowhead. Just got off of the hen day on the Yellowhead, cruising past Sherwood Park on the way through here. And this guy, and he's got a road roller. I don't know what they're called, but it's got the big wheels on it. You flatten out fresh, fresh. You know what I'm talking
pavement.
About. Fresh pavement. One of those. And he starts no signal, no nothing, and I'm behind him, and cars are passing, they're whipping, and he starts to drift into that lane. I don't mean like touching the line. I mean he's drifted fully over. Then he drifts back, and I'm like, what in the shit? Now he's staying way to the right. I'm like, I got to get around this guy because nothing good's going to come of this. As I start to pass, just to get into the go lane, he drifts all the way over. No signal, no nothing. Goes for a couple clicks. Goes to the right again. I get past and I just gun it and go. And everybody behind me, you could see, was doing the same thing. There is now a stack of people going, what in the shit? And I look, and it's a new Canadian, as per. I'll be that guy. I don't give a shit. I now view those trucks, and I never did before, basically like I did in all vehicles in Afghanistan, like a fucking time bomb, like an actual VBIED waiting to happen, because they are. I don't mean to sound hyperbolic here, and oh boy, the world. You don't have to look far, and every day something ridiculous is happening in this country, and people are paying life for it. Every day. Everybody remembers Humboldt years ago, and that whole situation, and it was almost like some big, I don't hate to use this word today, some big reconciliation happened, like, oh, it's a one-time thing, and oh... It ain't some one-time thing, is it? Because people are dying every fucking day on our roads because of this. We know the scams they're running with getting these licenses. It's been broken all time and time again. Nothing's being done about it. Not a thing. That's where the RCMP should be. Looking up that. Go for that. Start busting these rings. Start busting the rings that are bringing them in. You can't get a job. My kids thankfully have jobs. But you can't, when your kids are job ages, and I'm talking like anything from, 14, 15, 16, where they get that first summer job going, good luck. Good luck. It just isn't going to happen. And we all know why. These businesses too, they'll be posting stuff like, working up a dry mouth going here. Getting a sweat going, folks. These businesses are posting stuff like...
I'm wondering who put the cattle prod on Chuck this morning.
It's been brewing for a bit.
He walked in. It's been a while. We haven't had in since probably before summer, right?
Well, since before the event, the Cornerstone.
Is that how long it's been? Oh, I got to go look. Really?
Yeah.
It's been since before May.
Well, I came out here when we went to the farm and worked on the studio, but a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago, yeah. But on here, it's been a minute. I got a lot vented up here. It's time to unleash the kettle. But these companies are posting, well, we'll go out of business if we can't have access to the TFWs. Then go the fuck out of business. I don't give a shit.
You're right. April 15th.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't care about these businesses. They all managed before, but now, there's that magic number, and I saw it posted about it someplace in Ontario where the magic cutoff number is like $36.10 of what they can safely get subsidized, or some mathematician out there, some guru with money and numbers and knows more about the system. But this was this number that these companies all shove at the government to get their subsidy for it, I guess. And so they don't break 3610. And I don't know how much the worker sees and how much the company sees. I don't know. But we all know what's going on. We all see it. We all feel it. You can't walk down the street and not notice it. Noticers, you can't be on a highway right now and not notice it. I'm telling you that right now. If you drive any amount of distance, and if you're in Alberta, Saskatchewan, you do, I'm sure of it, you notice it. It's costing lives. This, I had it explained to me by a fellow who came from over there a long time ago, over 20 odd years ago. And he's been here and he's acclimatized and he's engulfed himself in Canadian culture as much as that means anything. And he said, when we came over 20, 30 years ago, those of us that came here back then, you were getting a different caste. He didn't say caste, but I'm going to use the word caste because they have a caste system. And we were able to get ourselves here, and we wanted to get here, and we wanted to dive into everything here. And they did. They're the first guys wearing Oilers shirts. They're the first, they integrated. They keep your identity from wherever you're from. Don't bring your bullshit fucking politics here that's going on with that too. That's another big deal. But they wanted to integrate. And he goes, the ones that are coming now are being either fed a pipe dream or fed a lie, or they're whatever the case is, and whatever they're being told over there to get them here. And of course, everybody wants to leave there anyway. I mean, you've seen the place. And then we're not getting that tier of person anymore. We're not getting the ones that they don't give a shit. There's a no trust society here now. We used to have a high trust society here now. We don't have a no trust society here now. Something as simple as leaving treats out on your front porch at Halloween, where you could do that before, and kids would take a couple, maybe some fat kid would take a handful, but there's always the fat kid that's going to go one further. But mostly because they're with their parents, the parents say, "Oh, take one," and out you go. That doesn't happen now. You can't do that now. They're just going to empty the bowl and run off. Not even have the decency to wear a fucking costume.
Well, I gotta give shout out to Lloydminster because we still do that.
Small towns, yeah.
Because we you go out with the kids and you're like, wow, we got to put something out. And you usually come back and it's been picked in to pretty hard, but it hasn't been. I know the kids come up and dump the whole thing in.
Used to just be fat kids you had to worry about. Now it's not fat kids. You don't have to harp on you fat kids.
Question for you.
Yeah.
If you're done with your rant.
Yeah, give her.
We've been talking about, because it feels like there's, it doesn't happen that often, but it has been happening enough to where I've noticed it, which is they're talking about whether or not Canadians support mandatory military
service
enrollment, service, thank
conscription.
you. And you go, what? No. I mean, there was a time when I lived in Finland where they're mandatory military service, and I thought, wow, this is honestly, I think if I was a younger man, I'd be all for. You get a little bit of training, and you're sitting on the border of Russia, and you got to realize there's threats out there that would be very interesting. And so I got talking to a lot of the different people I was playing hockey with, because they had to do it. I think it was after they did their mandatory military service. I think it was every 2 years they had to go back for a refresher course.
They would do an exercise or something. Yeah. Norway, same
and
thing.
I was like, oh, that's really interesting. But then you get run by a group of Muppets, and I'm like, I want nothing to do with mandatory military service with this group of people running our country. Not even a chance of it. Like, full stop. I'm not even interested. In your world, are you hearing more about that, or is that just kind of like throwing it out there and seeing how the population reacts?
I know there's an article in McLean the other day by that Muppet who says it's time to he seems to think it's going to reinvigorate patriotism. Are you fucking shitting me? Where's the patriotism here in this country? I've experienced it in small doses, occasionally, and usually at great cost, real cost, not hyperbolic cost. I mean real fucking cost. And then some people start waving a flag and getting themselves onto an overpass, and fair enough, I appreciate that. I'm of two minds when it comes to mandatory service. I've seen it firsthand with a variety of European armies, and they were to a one of them absolutely useless. I've trained with Norwegians, and I'm not knocking Norwegians per se, but I've trained a few times over in Norway, a couple months at a time. Brutal place to train. And these guys were on their that what you just talked about. They've done their minimum mandatory service of a year, 2 years. I don't remember which theirs is at. And then they'd have to come back I think it's every year for them, might be every 2 years, and they have to do a month-long exercise. And it was rough going. It was very rough going, even for us. And these guys would sit down and quit in the middle of on a mountain somewhere. Just sit down and quit. And I'm not talking like you're in Banff where you can go back on the trail and go back to your car. I'm talking you're in the mountains in Norway. And we're like, what the fuck? Like, we were all, the 30 of us that were on exchange, we're like, what in the fuck? Like, you can't just quit. You're soldiers. Like, no. We quit. And so they'd get walked back, or they'd get a BV-206, a big snow machine up there, throw them in the back of that with an MP, take them back to the barracks, which are now basically turned into mini jails. And instead of doing their 30 days or month-long exercise out in the boonies doing army stuff, they just get confined to quarters. And that's the mentality
of when you force people to do something. When you force
people. They would rather sit there confined to quarters.
And just, I just got to sit here.
Do some basic soldiering. And I can understand it. It wouldn't, if I'd been forced into it, I suppose. But look, people want to go back to World War I, World War II. Well, we had to do it then. Well, we're fighting world wars. Probably a little different. Do I think we have a need to increase our military? Yes, but I would incentivize it. I would incentivize the shit out of it. And you can't do it with this government. Can't do it with a liberal government. And you can't really do it when us going to war is on the doorstep. And Ukraine is still on that doorstep. And it's still tossed around. We're going to throw Canadian troops over there. But only as a peacekeeping thing. Well, peacekeeping's bullshit. I've done peacekeeping. It is utter bullshit. It's useless for one. And it's just about as dangerous as anything else. Because you're there in the UN. And the UN ROEs, rules of engagement, are absolutely egregious. You can't defend yourself. You can't do nothing. They count your fucking Bosnia in 94. They were counting our bullets every time, literally counting our bullets in our vehicle and on our battle rattle every time we'd walk back into camp. And if you're missing one, if one got misplaced, there'd be an investigation. We had workarounds for that. But I mean, that's the UN. And if sending Canadians to Ukraine, first of all, there's got to be a peace. There ain't no peace. And nobody seems to want peace that matters. And Russia's just going to keep chunking along on the land. And before you know it, they're going to be in Kiev. And they don't give a shit if that takes them another 5 years. They don't care about attrition. Attrition is one of their doctrine. It's their doctrine. They're just going to attrit the shit out of them. And they've already done it to our stores. Our war stores in NATO are essentially empty of the goodies. That's why you see the British military falling apart too. They're falling apart as rapidly as ours did. Ours is just kaput. The American military is a bit more robust, but they went through a lot of stuff. They've gone through a lot of stuff to send to them. If they ever invoked a conscription, that would be a hell of a catalyst. That would be a catalyst. It might be one thing that united. Well, I don't know if it would unite the left and the right, because the left seems to be all about this kind of thing. And it would be the boomer pushing it, because the boomer doesn't have to be conscripted. And that's where you get this Laurentian elitist group of boomers who seem to think that their elbows matter more than our rights. So I don't want it. Do I think there could be a mandatory type of service where maybe you could go a few different ways? You could get into the forestry service for a year or 2 years, or some, thing that would be beneficial to the country, or pick the military for a year or two. So yeah, you have to give some sort of service to the country, when you turn 18, but not necessarily the military, unless you chose it. Maybe then. I would almost like to go, I don't know if you've seen the old movie Starship Troopers back in the day, citizenship through service. I'm damn near there, I'll tell you that. Like I'm pretty much there in my mind that, it always sits in the back of a veteran's head, like, I went to fucking war for this at some point. You kind of go like, I went to war. I don't regret going to war. I don't have any regrets about that. What I regret is what my country has turned into since then. And I'm sure probably all vets, after every war they've been in, World War I, II, Korea, whatever, have had those moments like, I fucking went to war for this. Are you kidding me? Like, but if those vets could see the state of the country now, no. This country it isn't what it was. It's not even a shadow or a faint memory of what it was now. We all know it. We all feel it. We all sense it. Everybody can observe those patterns of life themselves. Nobody knows what to do about it. It's easy. We just separate out. We can leave the East to their values, leave them to their values, or lack thereof. I don't give a shit. They can do whatever they want. Doug Ford can pour out 40 pounders of Crown Royal in front of himself and make a mess of that. 2 minutes to pour that bottle out. Are you kidding me? I could have chugged that in 2 minutes. I would have been a bit of a state after. But that fat muppet can't get nothing right. Except buffet lines, I'm guessing. But, this,
I feel like this could be a comedy, come listen to Chuck monologue.
But a buddy of mine, a good friend, one of my best friends, I've worked with him in the jail for almost 10 years, great friend of mine. He came up with this a while back. He goes, we were talking about Doug Ford and some of his antics, and he goes, any Ontario conservative is by any other metric a liberal out here. It's just the way it is. It's just the way. My parents think of themselves as conservatives, and they're old retired dairy cattle farmers. They're staunch conservatives. But they're out here, they'd be a liberal. They're more liberal minded, And I don't know, maybe out east you think you're conservatives. Maybe you really are. I'm not trying to paint you all with one brush, although I kind of am.
Well, we got some lovely Eastern listeners. We do.
I know. But
on the whole is what you're talking about.
You're electing a Doug Ford. No, I can't say you're elected. We had Rachel fucking Notley in here. But that's what happens when the urban areas take over the voting parts, right? I mean, and then she ran this province into the shitter, and finally, we got a Danielle Smith, and we got a good version of Danielle Smith. I think if she trends the right way, if she goes with her heart more than what the polling groups probably tell her internal pollsters, have to feed her here and there. I mean, we've talked to. Well, there's the one lady, I'm not going to bring up her name, but we both know, and we've talked to her, and she's been to your events. Brilliant lady, very smart lady with numbers and taxes and whatnot. You know who you are. Eccentric dresser. One of my favorite people.
I'm not going to bring up her name, though, but I'm going to describe.
I'm going to rat her out a little bit. She has nothing but great things to say about Danielle Smith. And for the most part, we've all observed it. The one thing, the ivermectin thing she brought up a while back was a little out there for me. Like, kind of outline or banning it or whatever she wanted to do with it. I thought we were over that part of it. I thought that was I just thought that was an odd thing to kind of make public to do. It just doesn't sit right with me either, but whatever. And the immigration part, like there's ads apparently out in Ontario. People have put on the Twitter, come to Alberta if you're an immigrant or, a new, whatever. We're just trying to shuffle them here and dump them into our towns and little towns. I don't understand that because they're not going to vote for her at all when if they do manage to stay and get on the voter rolls,
I don't know if I've seen anything about immigrants from the ads. I think the ads I've seen from for Alberta in Ontario has been basically along, and maybe somebody will prove me wrong on this, have been more on the line of come out here for a better way of life, better opportunity.
I've seen those too.
And there's been a lot. If there's been a trend I've seen, there has been a lot of Ontarians come here.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is the way Danielle Smith talks. I mean, obviously, not to mention all the opportunity that Alberta, if left to do its thing, will have. There's just so much opportunity in this area.
More than a few, we probably all do, a few Ontarians. I grew up in Ontario till I was like 17, that have come here in the last few years because it feels a little bit like there's still some freedom.
Well, it feels like it's it's the Texas of the North, as everybody keeps calling it. Right?
Yeah.
Like we're still talking. We have groups in Alberta that are trying to push that a boy can still be a girl and all that. But I think for a lot of people it's just settled. No, keep it out of the schools. We're not worried about
the Danielle Smith handling a reporter the other day who asked about puberty blockers and that they don't block puberty, and Danielle Smith looks at the woman like, that's in the name, puberty blocker. And then she went on with a quite in-depth, articulate, and technical reason why. And I was like, she's a very bright lady. Very bright lady.
Well, I always say about Danielle Smith, when it comes to politicians that I've dealt with, so I wasn't around to, I never got to interview, Barack Obama, but when I was younger, watching Barack speak in front of the camera when I was in college, he was gifted where he'd keep 50 kids 25 students in a room mesmerized. Like, just, wow, listen to this person talk. Danielle Smith has that gift. She has an ability to, whatever topic you're going to throw at her, to really talk to it in a way that is impressive. Now you watch Carney on the flip side. He gets caught. He's turning into as bad as Trudeau.
He's really as bad as Trudeau.
Where they ask him a direct question, and I think even if you can't give out the information, you should be able to go, actually, I don't know. I'm just imposing my thoughts into what the question is. I'm like, you just say, we're not allowed to give out that information at this point. And then they'll come up with another thing. I'll go talk to my team and maybe we can get you an answer. But right now I can't give you an answer. That's about as giving. And instead he's like, and I'm like, oh my goodness, we got another Justin Trudeau.
There was a minute and a half of that in a presser the other day. It was Oz. The only thing you didn't say was water box thingies. Like, correct. It was, the rest of it was just as bad as a Trudeau.
Yeah, like it's been interesting, because he was billed as this mature guy who's been in the business and the banking and the government, and he's going to come in and
ask the Bank of England how he did. Ask anywhere where he's worked how he's done. Unless you're Brookfield right now, I think they've gotten 35 new contracts since he's been in. But there's no conflict of interest. This isn't a real country, and I'd like out now, And I know there's other veterans out there, some very outspoken ones who are like, we got to fix this. No, you went to war for this country. I get it. You served. You did your thing. I get it. I do. But this isn't that place anymore. And you know what? Map lines get redrawn all the time historically. It's time to redraw these. We can do it very easily and peacefully and legally. Just do it. Get it done. Let's restructure out here. Rebuild out here. You were talking about the opportunities coming out here. I think Imperial Oil just said they're laying off 20% of their force in the next year. 20%. A buddy of mine who's relatively high up in that sector is like, even us, he goes, I'm probably going to get downsized out. Like we're downsizing everything because we cannot get our oil where it's got to go at the scale that we could be doing it. So these companies that kind of thought there might be some movement, some areas of flexibility, I don't know. It just ain't happening. So 20%, and they employ a fuck ton of people. All these, and they're just the ones that have announced it so far. It ain't like, gas ain't still selling for whatever it is a barrel. It's just that the potential, the people will fluff up a company, flesh it out a bit bigger at the prospect of, growth. And when that growth doesn't happen or it actually goes backwards, that's what these liberals have done. You take away the thing that's fueling the country, driving the country, which is Alberta's oil. Then what? What's the next catalyst? What does that create?
When you, one of the conversations we had on patterns of life, right, and watching things go on in a country, and obviously you've talked about the ostriches and different things. Mm-hmm. What are one of the things going on right now? The drivers. You can just see where these things are leading. Me and Tuz always talk about this with the mashup every week. It's like we had a segment started, and I don't know, Tuz, was it 100 mashups ago with criminals? We just started noticing it, right? Like they're going to give the Coots boys 6.5 years now. Thankfully, there's been some things happen there, but regardless, that's where it is. Tamara and Chris right now.
Yeah,
years, right?
7 for her and 8 for him, or something, or
is it 8 and 9?
I can't remember.
I should know that off the top of my head. That's sad, but regardless, years. And then you just start watching all the people getting out and recommitting crimes, and you're like, wow, this is a real trend. And then it was just off of watching the news each week that we just started to see it over and over again. And
you started to notice.
And then you noticed, like the ethics violations. How many of those play out in Canadian politics? Or, like the latest one on the $44,000 limo trip, right, for 4 days. And you're like, well, that's been a trend. It's like they don't care about money and how they're spending it, even if they get caught.
$16 orange juice.
Right.
Yeah.
And certainly the drivers has become something. We're seeing more and more semis do things that has there been semis run into overpasses? 100%. My father and brothers run a trucking company. Like, it happens. Like, these things do happen. But you're starting to notice it happen more and more. The thing that I've noticed is semis trying to do a U-turn on major interstates, or I guess not interstates, highways in Canada. And I'm like, I don't care what driver you are, that's a terrible idea. Horrible. And has it happened? I'm sure it has. But, like, we're talking about getting stuck and, like, slowing down, just both lanes of traffic. You're like, this is weird. This is strange. You got, just all the protests happening now with all these different groups of people, and that playing itself out in the major centers. Like, it just seems to be picking up more and more. I'm curious if there's other trends you've seen that you're like, from a military side or from just, like, troubling scenarios that Canada is seeing that you're
those are all part of it. I mean, to go back to the trucking thing too, I can remember even from being a young kid to an adult a few years ago when I became an adult, big trucks on the highway were always the safest drivers. They were always they were the one vehicle that you could depend on, almost all of them, not to like run, like to just be doing the right thing. And they probably were, not getting enough sleep back then. They were probably doing all the things they needed to do to stay awake, and they were still driving like more safely than the average person on a highway. Everybody went by them, said toot toot. I did it as a kid. My kids have done it when they were little kids. Waving at and the driver would wave and honk his horn, and those are all memories we all had growing up in this country. Not now. You're lucky. I stay as far the fuck away as I can from them now. And this morning just reinforced it. They all feel like a potential VBIED. Like that click this morning, and it was the first time it kind of clicked, was when that thing almost took out like 3 cars going by it, and then went back to the other lane and almost took out cars on that side. And then I'm stuck behind it going,
what am I going to do?
What am I going to do? Because I got to get around it. But can I get around it? It was that, mindset in Afghanistan was like, is this car fucking with me? Or are we going to have to dust it? Or like, this is now every truck in Canada, every major of these things. It just, that's, maybe everybody else doesn't feel that way. I don't give a shit. That's how I feel about it. because it's killing people at a rapid rate. You talk about patterns of life and the things I notice. We're all noticing them right now. It's when people start to admit them to themselves, then they'll actually notice. They're seeing it. I have the advantage of having lived in and seen things where the contrast is rapid and violent or extreme, and so those patterns of life become a survival mechanism. You don't see them, you don't live them. Here, I'm seeing them all as well. And part of it is the government overreach. I mean, there's that new online hate bill where basically could potentially throw you in jail for life for what they're doing in the UK right now is a perfect primer for that.
Bill C8.
Yeah. You can see in the UK.
So it's the new, and forgive me, folks, what was it? It's the new version of the bill they had before.
Yes.
It's online censorship.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm listening to this conversation. I'm like, well, I'd be shut down for this conversation.
You'd be gone.
Yeah.
You'll be gone.
That has been a real, I think, fear for a lot of
we'll be cellmates.
Podcasters, people who...
Independent media, period. If you're not parroting the North Korean party line by one of these state-funded groups or state-funded media outlets, which they all are...
I keep coming back to the Ron Wallace conversation, and I've brought this up a lot lately, but he was talking about infrastructure in Canada.
Yeah.
They had the National Energy Board, and it was a group of experts, and I always chuckle because I'm like, experts, I know how I feel about that word these days. But what he was pointing out was, once upon a time, they looked at anything, a pipeline across the country, you just take it, railroad, I'm sure anything else. And they looked at the economic feasibility. So they're looking at money. Now, were there things they maybe should have done or maybe couldn't do or, over the course of 50 years? And I'm sure there's lots of things that they weighed the pros and cons of, and there was external influences on those experts to maybe not put pipelines across or maybe to, I don't know. And he said that the large change now with Bill C5 is it takes away any of those experts having any say, and it puts it to the ministers. And so now the ministers are going to decide what's the national best interest. And he was pointing out, now you're back to an ideology-based system, where if climate change is your number one priority, well then all of a sudden that overrides natural gas, oil and gas, energy. It goes back to wind, right? We're seeing Wind West out in, I think it's Nova Scotia, right? That big $1 billion project. And there will be more information, I assume, coming by the day on what that's going to be, and trying to, electrify and get away from some of the things. And you're like, and basically what he was saying is that they're not looking at the economics anymore. They're looking at what are the major issues we face this year. Well, you just got to tune into any key politician. Climate change is going to be in there. Ukraine, Russia is going to be in there. The trade war with the United States, is Donald Trump the biggest threat, is going to be in there. Those three seem to come to mind. I'm probably missing a few more. But if those are national interest, we're no longer worried about what's in the best interest of the country, which a lot of people would draw back to the economics of it. Is it going to make us more prosperous?
Well, you brought up the ministers having that input, and they're
well, and the reason I bring it up with Bill C5 is who are they going to give the power to? A minister.
Yeah.
So now it's going to be another liberal looking at, and it's just dissenting voices that are questioning them.
Well, and part of those dissenting voices are every band where that pipeline has to go through is going to say no till they get their cut. It's always about that too. I mean, you can't get anything moved without that, which is, I think the fatigue for that has now boiled or is boiling as well. Like everybody that I talk to, and I'm going to use the word fatigue a lot because I see it a lot, and it kind of aptly describes my state of being when I'm just seeing it for the umpteenth time. I no longer give a viscous shit about it. I just do not. We want to go back 30, 40, 50, 100 years about some issue. I'll blame every Japanese kid that wears anime outfits then for Pearl Harbor. How's that sound? I didn't do it. My kids didn't do it. My fucking forefathers didn't do it. So let's get over it and move forward. And if you don't want to, fuck off. Really. At this point, We need to move the fuck forward. This reconciliation thing, we've been reconciling to the tune of about $40 billion a year for what? Now, I don't mean to sound harsh. I'm going to sound harsh anyway. I don't give a shit. A lot of these places, a lot of these bands don't even have, potable water, apparently. I believe it. I've been to a few of them. I believe it. Every village in Afghanistan that I went to managed a well. To my knowledge, we have well drilling companies in this country, a lot of them. Contract a couple of them because we did it over there. Some village.
Yeah, but you're entering in common sense. What I see out of the Indigenous First Nations, and maybe I'm oversimplifying, it's kind of like climate change. It's become this area where a ton of money goes.
Oh yeah,
and there's no transparency on where it goes. And it's a very uncomfortable topic for people to talk about, which makes finding out where it's going and how it's, Well,
you're a noticer if you're asking where the money went.
Right. So
well, we know where it stops. It's like anything in the government. It stops at their first level of
when
government.
you get First Nations people now starting to raise their brow of like, wait a second, something's off here.
But they'll distract them, and they are with the graves.
Or they'll silence them.
The graves. I'm air quoting if you can't.
Or they'll silence them. I think of Jennifer Leywitz getting removed from the Métis Nation meetings in Saskatchewan for asking questions, and then they removed a bunch of representatives from those meetings as well.
There's what's her name? Is that the one I'm thinking of? She's on Twitter, and they're shutting her down pretty hard because she's asking questions. Yeah.
Well, Jennifer L on Twitter.
Oh yeah, Jennifer.
Right?
L.
She was just on here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, very smart lady.
Yeah, and she's asking questions, and for that, and so you're seeing the same playbook happen all over these places. Large amounts of money going into what we deem as like this needs to happen. Okay, billions, and
$40 billion a year, roughly.
And then when you try and ask questions, well, you can't be a white guy and ask questions. That's really weird, right? And you can't. So then Jennifer L is not right treaty holder or treaty card holder, however you say that. And now they're silencing her.
For asking the questions.
And then there's people within the Métis Nation who are representatives of people in the Métis Nation, and they've removed them for being harassment and hurtful and all the things. And so it's interesting because one of the trends I see is more and more people across the board becoming disgruntled at how the things are going. Because why? Well, you go to the store and you notice it. The cost of living is going up.
My kids who are 30 and 31 notice about every few months the cost of something because they do a lot of the groceries in the house. And they'll notice, and especially when it's their money and not my card, they'll notice like that thing of eggs was only X 6 months ago, and it was this a year ago, and now it's this. And we've said this before on here on your show. We all used to see people with a heaping cart, and it might have been $120, $130. This went on for years. We all saw, you could go to the regular store and heap that cart. You can put name brand shit in there and still come out at $100, $150, whatever, for a heaping cart. You go through with a little green or blue basket now, you're at $80, no problem.
Well, I just think of our family. It's $300, and you don't come home with a whole lot.
With a whole lot.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid you're getting toilet paper and some big consumable.
What's the old saying? Nobody moves from a place of comfort. Yeah. And what I see is more and more people becoming disgruntled because why? Well, the cost of living, it's
astronomical.
Right. And the cost to buy your first house or to build a house or to build anything.
My kids so at their age, they're making way more money than I made at that age. And I could afford on an army wage, which was shit back then. I could afford a home, scrimping and saving and tight belts and eating no-name craft dinner a lot and hot dogs. We could do it. There is no way my kids can do it with decent paying jobs. There's just no way they can do it. Not in today's economy. Your kids they're a generation behind. I don't know how they're going to do. I just don't know, buddy. I do not know. Short of an inheritance or short of the parents doing it all for them, and I'm financially secure-ish, but I can't just plump them a spare house. I'm not a boomer who's got like 4 of these things lined up and 3 on the lake, I'm not that guy either. back in the 80s when you buy a house for $7 and some bottles. Like, it's, oh, but my interest rate was 20. Yeah, it was your interest rate was like fucking in the teens for 5 minutes, buds. Like, give it up. Like, give it up. My first house in 98, 99, my first mortgage rate was astronomical too. It was like 9, 10, 11%. And then they dropped. That's what they do. Hopefully we don't go back to that height again. But you talk about catalysts and trends and patterns of life and all that stuff. The online hate bill, that's a big one, because all you have to do is look at the UK right now. They're going into your home for a post. And we're not talking like...
Oh, they arrested a person for saying Muppet.
Several people for saying several things in that vein. Yeah. Something humorous. Something that would definitely have me chucked away, probably. That's coming here. That's coming here.
That's coming to parts of Canada.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, actually, no, I shouldn't say it that way, because, when I read the bill, it'd be like telecommunications. So you're talking Rogers, Bell, and who are we kidding? They're going to...
Oh, yeah.
They're going to pick on certain individuals that have different platforms. And one of the things you will get from being in Alberta is probably Danielle Smith, I would think, saying we're not going to enforce this, is going to be my guess. But at the same token, it goes back to my conversation with Rod Giltaka on the gun grab. Although Alberta doesn't enforce it, you have a house fire and they find guns you didn't return, you're a criminal, right? Just go to the simplest things. So it's there's a lot of concerning things these days.
All of those should concern people. And even if you're not a gun owner or...
Actually, the way you've come in today is another little pattern of life for me.
I'm hot right now.
You're hot right now, which is... It's interesting to me, Chuck, because normally you come in and you're pretty jovial, right? Even in with...
I'm still fucking funny. But no, I know. I can normally brush it off or make light of it, and I just... it's a cascade recently, and I think everybody that I interact with, either online or in person, is feeling it too. And I think that general... I think this ostrich moment has just kind of put a big magnifier on how we're all feeling, starting going back to when... I'm not trying to leap from ostriches to Charlie Kirk, but again, the same buddy of mine who talked about Ontario liberal conservatives being an Alberta liberal, he's very deep in his faith. He great guy, fantastic guy to work with, a very good human. Unlike myself, he's a good human, genuinely. And it hit him. It hit all of us hard, and it hit us all hard about when Charlie Kirk got shot, killed, assassinated by the trans Tifa left. Some furry dude, whatever the hell he is, whatever thing it is. And I couldn't put a finger, and it was hitting everybody hard that I talked to. And I couldn't put like a lot of people get assassinated, a lot of big names get taken out and hurt or whatever, killed. It doesn't bother me. It has never really, I didn't know them. Fuck, what do I, oh, that sucks or whatever. And when they went after Trump, I kind of had a little, like that would have sparked, say what you will, that would have sparked it. That would have been, we would have seen full on go. I'm damn near sure. This wasn't going to spark that, but what it did was, and my friend said this, he was all of us. He was the moderate, normal dude having conversations with faith. He goes, I've got faith. He goes, not like I'm running around slapping you with the Bible, but I have a lot of faith. I like to have normal conversations. I just want a traditional way of life. Live and let live. I'm that guy. And I'm like, that's it. He was the normal guy. Yeah, he was outspoken and fearless in his own way for doing what he was doing. Had to be. Absolutely. Faith-driven, genuine by all accounts. Anybody that knew him has nothing but genuine things to say about him. And they took him out and then mocked it. Now, luckily, there's been some justice served on them, those that have mocked him in their own karmic ways. But that's a pattern of life. That is a pattern of life right there. I'm not saying he's Francis Ferdinand sparking World War I here, but he's a catalyst for something. Grabbing the guns, they only sent me to countries where that had happened already. And guess what happens when
A military force walks in and you don't have any way to defend yourself?
Bosnia uses a microcosm for a lot of things. They'd had their guns taken away, or weren't allowed to have them in the first place, I guess, initially. Although damn near a good chunk of this population had them hidden away for this reason. And those that didn't quickly broke into armories when the things fractured. And if you didn't have one, you're getting popped and put in a ditch. If you weren't already in an ethnically majority town of whatever side you were on. And it broke like that. It was quick. And people need to realize something too. And I'm not trying to speak with too much hyperbole here again. If and when something does happen, and I don't know what that thing looks like. I don't know if 2032, although I would say I hate to put a firm date on things because you're going to be wrong.
Yeah, the only reason I bring up 2032 is
computer said so. Yeah,
is Armstrong's talked about it an awful lot.
Yeah,
and every day we step a little closer and something else happens. I'm like,
I would say he's probably not far off the mark, or his computer is. I would say that we are, but it could happen earlier.
For sure,
well.
it could.
And what people need to understand is, you're going to have a completely normal day one day, and the next day might be the loudest, noisiest, most chaotic moment that stretches for years. That moment will stretch for years, or it could. And that's on the horizon. It's really on the horizon. These moments that we're experiencing in this country right now, and we're seeing around the world on top of it all, that it's not like we can look around the world and go, oh, at least there's this one spot that's all sort of fucking normal. Can't point to one. The U.S. is trying to make some headway. They can only do that because they have a Trump who does not give a shit. And it looks like Vance is going to be Trump 2.0 when he takes over. They might right their ship. Maybe. They're looks like they're at least trying to. We don't have that. We have sort of that kind of here with under Daniel Smith and the West, Saskatchewan as well. But I don't see it happening. No, I don't see us fixing this country whatsoever. It's been so fractured, so broken for so long with a different set of values. And I know if you're in the East and you're like, well, I have these values too. Yeah, I know a lot of you do, especially if you're listening to the show. I get it. And you're, if you can, get on the lifeboat out here if you can.
When it comes to one day being normal, the next day being the loudest, and it goes for years, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe you can push back against this. When I look at the world right now, the place I see that is England.
Oh, yeah.
I just think they are, I don't know.
They're teetering on.
It feels like it, right?
Yeah.
The recent, if you don't have a digital ID, you don't get to work, and then the signatures coming out against that, saying we do not want this. Even some pushback from their media with Keir Starmer saying, how is this going to affect what's happening in our country? And then you just look at the long list of things that have been going on in their country.
The reason so many dystopian type films are based in England or filmed in England, or with an English texture or flavor, is because possibly because of the island mentality anyway. But it's always been on the cusp there. It's always kind of been talked about there. They're an old civilization. They've always kind of danced around these ideas, and now we're seeing it in this last 2 generations or so really start to get to where it is now. And I kind of catch myself laughing, like, holy fuck, thank God I didn't post that in England. And I'm like, wait, they're going to do that to us here. They are doing that to us here. They're going to do that to us here, unless you're waving, some fucked up flag from some shithole, which is perfectly okay, I guess. Waving our own flag, which, I'm sad to say it doesn't seem to mean anything anymore. The pattern of life for this country that I'm watching and everything that's happening, people should be, as much as they can, preparing their family to be as safe as they can and ready as they can for a catalyst of some sort.
Yeah,
whether it's gold and silver, food,
When we go down these prepper rabbit holes, right? The thing that I come back, you can't live in fear. It's like
You can't.
you can just do little things that make you a little more comfortable. You used to say, pick up something heavy, right?
Just put it down again, yeah.
And just get a little better in shape. Start to, learn a couple skills that doesn't, will if
Be
it
less shitty tomorrow than you are today.
if it doesn't ever happen, you're still better for knowing.
Well, everybody's got house insurance, car insurance, life insurance, and they do that partially because A, you have to, but two, because if something happens, well, you've got a course, right? You have a fix. That's how I look at anything I do as far as prepping goes. I don't like to ever get it too far deep into that. But anything I've done and do continue to do, whether it's skill set, keeping them sharp, or whether it's physical things like this or food or other items, it may never come to pass.
Yeah, but if I do realistically, I don't know if like Serbia, not Serbia, sorry, Bosnia happens here.
There is a Serbia, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, what are the things you can look at and the trends that are happening right now and what the federal government is talking about? What are the trends we can see that are going to probably play out over the next year? Is the cost of living going to go down? No. If the cost of living goes up, what will be the after effects of that? I would say crime's going to go up.
Crime is going up. Crime is going up, and it's the part of the problem.
And when people get desperate, they turn to probably, I'm not saying everybody, but they're going to try and, like the food banks are going to be hit by more people. We've already seen that pretty much everywhere in the country. The food bank use has gone up.
Skyrocketed.
Right? So you go, when you get to a point and you can't afford to live in your house or pay for groceries or on and on and on, what's going to happen? Well, civil unrest. Civil unrest to me is one of those words. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means crime's probably going up. The unemployment rate's going up. There's a whole bunch of things happening. You're talking about shuttering of jobs. And when people get desperate,
they do desperate things.
Which means, are we going to have full-on Bosnia? I don't know. I don't think so, but that doesn't mean I'm right. It just means...
They didn't think so either.
True enough.
They hosted, like I've said before, they hosted the Olympics a few short years earlier. I hope it doesn't get to that level of spice. I really don't, because it was bad. It was very, very bad. But look, I don't see a fix either.
So I always go to size of a country. Okay, the reason why, and maybe you can poke holes in this. Canada is a giant country. So when you're talking about the UK. It's like, the full UK, I think, is the size. I think it just spit out like Manitoba. So not all of Canada, we're talking. And if you go to some parts of it, it gets even smaller than that. When you look at Bosnia, it says Bosnia is approximately, what does it say? Bosnia is about 1/5 the size of the UK. And roughly equivalent to the U.S. state of Kentucky.
Is that the Bosnia with the map lines today or back then? It doesn't matter. It's smaller.
Regardless, even if you expand it, all I'm saying is when you have a ton of people cramped into a small area, I look at it and I go, what are people saying in Canada right now? Get out of the cities. Where there's a ton of people, you're going to have tons of problems. That's why you're seeing a mass exodus of people trying to get out of the cities and just remove themselves from some of the problems. Because we're seeing lots of the problems where all the people are. All the drugs and crime and honestly murders and on and on and on it goes.
All of it, yeah.
And one of the things Canada has over any of these countries we're talking about is size. We just have a mass amount of space. It doesn't mean it makes it easier cost of living wise, right? Our cost of living is insane, but you have space. And when you have space, you have room, and it's just harder to do, I think. I could be wrong because maybe you can point to some other country and be like, well, actually, back then, and it'll put me right in my place, and I'm sure somebody's
No, you're not wrong. And that is one of the reasons why the kettle doesn't reach a boiling point here like it does in some places. You're absolutely right. The size of things here, and us, maybe, I don't know what we're, old stock Canadians, to borrow that, are leaving cities in the numbers we are. But all that does is kick it down the road. I mean, I don't have to look at it now. I don't have to see this shit every day. Passed out, drugged on our streets, or the crime going on, or the potential for my kids to get robbed, beaten, or worse. So it does give you a valve to let off pressure. It does. The other side of that you brought up as well is it doesn't alleviate the cost of anything.
No, it doesn't.
Our infrastructure is already broken, and I'm talking hospital, crime response times. I mean, one of the reasons they're letting these yokels back out, well, there's a couple reasons. One, judges have basically become woke.
Oh, part of an ideology.
Yes. And I saw it firsthand when I worked in corrections. My last year in there was working in the video court system side of it, and you'd see it every day with the majority of the judges would be like, oh, and then the inmate would go back out after getting like a nothing, like getting a time served for your crime, or kicked out on a bail, even though you've had like you're in here and you beat 5 bails. You're like, oh, and he'd go back, high five all his bros, and go right back on the street and do it again. Part of the reason is they're not building enough jails. We don't have enough infrastructure to house them all. Part of that problem is getting rid of the loony bins. Now, a good segment of the population in prison is legit nuts. And I mean, is violently crazy. And that's a large part of what you're doing, depending where you're working in the jail, is dealing with fucking crazy criminals. Like real crazy. I'm not talking like a bad dude, like violently crazy. So they got to be housed somewhere. And we don't have that infrastructure because it's, there's no good way of doing that. There's no good way where everybody's going to be happy doing it. So we'll just put them back on the street to do what they're doing again and again and again and again. The other criminals that we've seen time and time again, or unless you're Tamara or Chris, or the Coots boys, these guys are getting right back out the same day on a PTA or like bailed out on nothing. And they're in for like attempted murder. It's gross. And so when people like you and me and the others out there listening see this, it discourages us. And the worst is when you have great employees in a company, the worst thing you can do to them is keep a shitty employee, because then they just look at that shitty employee and go, well, they don't do nothing on time. They don't turn in good work. They don't output anything. They smell funny and they fucking, they're always doing weird stuff and eating all of our food. Why on earth would I not do that and still get paid the same? So you want to turn good citizens into shitty citizens real quick? You keep doing what you're doing, because this is the best way to do it. Do I think we're going to get spicy? I don't know. I hope not. There's no way of predicting that till it actually comes to pass and happens. You can see in the UK now, that fucking kettle is percolating. And one of those moments that really got it percolating was those 2 Scottish girls were getting basically assaulted by a new Scottish person. And the one pulled out a blade and a hatchet and, in her little Scottish voice was like calling, like, get the fuck away from me. And that galvanized them. Like, enough. If our 12-year-old girls, they've got and we all think, well, those poor UK people with the problems they've got with the grooming. You think that's not happening here? They're busting it left and right. They're doing the same thing here. They're busting it left and right. None of that behavior changed because we have snow here, and syrup. Like, none of that changed in their behavior. None of it. It's just here now, en masse. And everybody's noticing it. And you're going to get labeled for noticing it. But don't worry about that label. They're going to boot you off the internet pretty soon. You won't be able to do nothing about it. And then maybe go to jail for the rest of your life because you noticed it. You won't be able to defend yourself because they're trying to get your guns. Because you noticed it. Conservatives aren't coming to save us. Pierre, who I had a lot of faith in, at least if he got in, he could reverse things. He's not going to get in. He's the Diet Coke of Trump. He's Trumpish when he wants to be witty and hold an apple, and he's a witty guy. He's a smart fucking guy. I think he's a good guy at heart. But he's not enough. And unfortunately, the person that you need to be enough is going to be an asshole. And he's going to be an asshole much smarter than me, who's already politically in there somewhere. And it'll be and I'm not talking about Mad Max either. That guy's fucking, talking about Muppets, that grifting Muppet. Anyway, It's going to be some unknown entity who will hop in. This is how it plays in Chuck's head. And maybe there's a chance. But not for Canada. Canada's done. People are holding on to some echo of what we once were. You know, listening to fucking Gordon Lightfoot or, you know, some old-timey music where you're like, oh, I remember
CBC, Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday
Hockey Night in Canada. I spent my early career in the Army when we're in the field tuning in our radios that could pick up CBC, listening to the hockey game. And we all rallied around that. The fucking operation would basically, the exercise would kind of sort of stop. Oh, the fucking hockey game's on. Let's listen to this. Everybody did it, you know. Those memories, you know, that's done. That's over. People are going to hold on to that, like hold on to a shitty relationship. That's what this is now. We, the West, in order to survive, need to excise the rest of this parasitic part of the country off of our asses so that we can push forward. We're landlocked, Chuck. You can we'll build guess we're right next to Montana here. We'll just build a fucking pipeline down to there. All over the place. We'll ship. You know what? We separate from the rest of Canada. We'll pay you a stipend now to send our oil through. You don't want to do that? We'll go to the other coast. You don't want to do that? We'll go north. We'll go south. Don't give a shit. We'll fly it. I don't care. We'll get our oil to market because the rest of this country seems hell bent on stopping it. Well, you eastern bastards will freeze in the dark because that's what's coming when you stop all of our oil. And if these oil companies aren't prospering or progress. Prosper is not the right word. They're all making money. But they base everything, like any company, on the growth. And when you're not growing, you're shrinking. So these guys are, well, we're downsizing because we're not growing. We got to maintain our level of money in our pocket. It's what every company does. They just do it on a exponentially higher scale.
It's funny. I feel like I went through a stage of Chuck where I was like super angry, super disappointed, you know,
Hurts.
all the things. And then like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago on the mashup, I just started laughing at everything. And I told Twos when we were done, I'm like, man, I had so much fun today. And I don't know what changed in me. It's like I just got over the fact that we're going to see this. Is it another year of this? Is it another 5 years of this? I don't know. Can it get a lot worse? Oh, it certainly can.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
You know? But I'm like, it's so ridiculous at this point. I'm just one guy, and until the population has had enough,
that's
right? All I can do is bring people on and talk about the stories, but I can't personalize it so much of like we can go and shock the federal government into doing what's right when we're just seeing it play out over and over and over again, and more voices are talking. But we've never had, I don't think, in my lifetime, we've had as many independent, doing wonderful things, pointing out the hypocrisy and everything else of what's going on in our systems, and nothing seems to be happening.
Nothing.
And I'm like, so we're just going to point it out. We're going to laugh at it. We're going to poke fun of it. We're going to try and have some fun with it. Because like on the flip side, Cornerstone Forum's coming up March 28th, 2026. Okay. So mark that on your calendars, folks. And that community that comes together for that is people that are wonderful, that are trying to make sense of a world that is making less and less sense by the day, trying to put things into their life that will benefit them and their kids for the coming years, and understanding that we're in like, man, if we're a boat, we are sitting in a big old storm right now, and you can give up, or you can batten down the hatches and chart a course, and listen to the people that are talking directly to it. And if the rest of the world doesn't want to listen to it, that's fine. But we're gonna listen, and we're gonna aim for there. We're gonna get to a safe point. We're gonna find safe harbor. We're gonna sit in it, and we're gonna watch the craziness because it's coming. It's already here.
It's here.
And is it going to get worse? Yes. And is it gonna turn into spicy? Is it gonna get spicy? Well, in some sense, it already has.
On some level, it's...
Now, has that become kinetic in
No.
Canada? No.
No.
And hopefully it never does.
I hope it doesn't either.
But signs of the rest of the world, they're certainly trying to make it kinetic in Russia, Ukraine. They're certainly trying to drive, the Article 4 invoked by Poland, I believe, a few weeks ago that basically gets everybody into a meeting. It's not Article 5, which would demand,
That's war. Yeah.
you know, we're going to war because they made an attack on us, right? So everybody's staring, I think, more fervently than ever for where is going to be the false flag. And then Charlie Kirk got shot.
Yeah.
And you go, is that Franz Ferdinand? I don't know. Did it closer? Did it push us closer?
It pushed us closer.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, when had Vance Crowe on here last week, and he's a guy that, you know, what did he say? I always say we got to talk things out. And now he goes, I don't know if I should recommend that anymore. That's from a guy who I would say is closer to center than me. That's a pretty wild thing to hear. You know, where do you put that?
Because of the fatigue. You can only observe these patterns for so long. You can only attempt that conversation for so long before there aren't any more talking solutions. Now, once things have gone kinetic, well, but Chuck, you say about this peace in Ukraine. Well, things have already gone kinetic there. They've been horribly kinetic there for a couple years.
Well, it's more than a couple now.
No,
now it's like three
plus.
Yeah.
There comes a point when now that you've been kinetic, it's like getting in a hockey fight. You shake hands after, typically, unless the guy's a real slew footer or some shit. You know, you generally at the end of the game, you're still shaking the guy's hand like, hey, good Tilly. You know, like that's the way it goes. I'm not saying you got to shake hands after the war, but at a certain point.
Well, this isn't a fight. This is what you're outlining is a line brawl, or even more. I've been in one, a bench clearing brawl, where I assume hockey players today have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But to the older generation, they've probably been a part of one or seen one. And when a full-on bench clearing brawl happens, it is usually tensions rise. They get to a fever pitch, and one fight breaks out, not the end of the world. But something happens that all of a sudden the refs can't stop it. And then you have 20 guys fighting 20 guys, and the only thing that stops it is everybody tires out.
Everybody gets exhausted.
You've been labeled with 6 off the face, and you've labeled another guy with 6 off the face. You fought 3 different dudes. You got nothing left. You're exhausted. And at the end, everybody just kind of goes to their side, and the ref's just writing fervently, and he's trying to pull out the most vulnerable, right? He's like, holy crap, this guy's getting pummeled by 3 guys. And he yanks a couple guys off, but before he can yank a couple, the other teammate jumps in. And it is just, and eventually the refs just go stand back because there's nothing they can do.
No.
There's too many people fighting. And you think about it from that analogy, when it begins, if it ever were to begin, that's the way the police would be. There'd be nothing they could do.
No.
And it would just play itself out to where people are just tired. And they just want things to go back. And because like the next time we played that team, that didn't happen, right? Like it starts almost back. That's the shake the hand, and we still hate them, and we still want to beat them, but you got a hockey game to play. And when you're talking about things popping off, it's like when it happens, if it ever does in any country, there will be no stopping it because it'll be a landslide overnight.
It'll be a landslide.
And once you get people going like that, there's no putting that back in the box.
No, everybody's got that amount, right? That amount of bullshit fatigue, noticing they can fill themselves up with before it boils. You know, you're starting to see it percolate heavy in the UK, some other spots. You're starting to see it percolate here. You know, you're starting to see pushback that I've never seen before in this country.
Really, when you come
online,
back to Canada, you say online.
Online, you're starting to see it, which is probably why. And I'm even in my own personal interactions with people that I'm in personal, like face-to-face life, people that were centered, you know, very centered. Well, this is good for this side. You know, I understand this. Those people are now like fucking, if there was a deport button here, I'd be smashing it with a brick. You know, if there was a this to, like, they have now noticed. They have now, I can't afford this. My kids can't afford that. My kids aren't safe. I can't defend myself in my own home. You know, and I'm not talking gun owner people. I'm talking like, I've got a baseball bat by my bed. Okay, well, good for you. And hopefully he doesn't have an automatic baseball bat when he breaks into your house, you know. But these people now in my life that I'm friends with are like, if I'm going to get in more trouble than the guy that broke in. Like they're seeing this not once or twice play out like some errant judge. They're
Yes.
seeing this as the norm, and they're like, that's not what I want. Or they have taken their kid to the hospital and they waited for 12 hours to get seen for like strep throat or something, you know? In what world in a first world country is that the way it is? And then they tell me what they saw in the waiting room. Like, well, that's why you're waiting 12 hours. You noticed. So
it's becoming harder and harder for the everyday average person
Yes.
not to see it impacting their life. It's happening everywhere, whether we're talking finance,
yes.
or whether, like we went to Sylvan Lake this summer, and I was in Sylvan Lake probably 20 years ago, roughly. And I remember, it's got a lovely beach, beautiful, right? I think of it as one of the probably tourist attractions of Alberta. Like
It is,
Sylvan
yeah.
Lake's a
I
nice
love Sylvan
spot to
Lake,
go.
yeah.
And 20 years ago, I would say if there was 1,000 people on the beach,
Yeah.
950 of them were white.
Mhm.
It's just Shaun's brain, the way he recollects it. We were there this summer, and we were the 50 white. It was it wasn't bad. It wasn't like anybody was aggressive or anything. That's not what I'm trying to point out. All I'm pointing out is at
The
Sylvan
change.
Lake, if that is like the big tourist destination for summer in Alberta that isn't the mountains, you could walk down that thing. It was crazy to me. I'm like, wow, look at this. It was honestly, it was kind of cool. You're getting like some Indian food, and then you go over and there's some Thailand set up, and on Vietnamese, all these, but it was wild. It was beyond wild. I was like, this is strange. Like for Alberta, the number one or close to the number one lake in Alberta, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Like I think everybody knows Sylvan Lake, and it was. If there was 100 out of 1,000, I'd be surprised. It was pretty wild to walk down and just see it. I was just like, this is, where is everybody else going? Because like
They're just not going anymore.
I guess they're not going anymore. I don't know. That's just a visual of
I
just
know.
my eyes seeing things change.
Well, everybody's eyes are seeing.
You go through them all and you just see it.
Yeah.
We're in West Ed this past weekend, and you noticed it. You're just like, there it is.
And for my own
Does that mean
selfish-
they're all evil people?
No,
that's
no,
ridiculous.
I'm not saying that either. However, there was no merit-based system to getting them here either. There just wasn't. There was a TFW program and a few other programs, and let's bring 3-point-something million of them over in short order and dump them into the workforce where they get preference over jobs.
And as people learn more and more about, the cost of living and the cost of things, cost of life being difficult, and then learning about how some of them are subsidized with housing and
to the tune of $82,000 a year.
Like, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Dude,
Yeah.
you know a lot of Canadians making $82,000 a year? Because I sure shit don't. I sure don't. I don't think they're getting taxed on that $82K they're getting. Like,
What's the 82K?
so they got some leaked documents of new Canadians in Niagara Falls being put up in hotels who are getting X amount for food a day, X amount per kid per day, X amount for the room and board, X amount for whatever. It's like when you work for a company and you go on a little trip somewhere and they give you your little, whatever that was called, stipend or whatever it was to go away for a bit. They're getting that to the tune of $82K a year. So they're living large. They can afford, like, you're living large on that. You're living larger than any Canadian is right now, unless you're a boomer, which is another word for Muppet. But look, I don't think they're all bad people either. However, I've noticed enough of the bad ones to be smashing the deport button real quick, and then we can start over and be like merit based. Let's bring in 50,000 people a year who have a trade or a technical thing that
Doctors.
we're missing. Because right now we're not. You know what? We're not bringing over a lot of doctors and engineers.
Well, if we are, the doctors that I've seen come to this area, it's like they're open for a day of new patients and they're full so fast. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
Family physician, that side
Good
of the world,
luck. Yeah.
the hospitals, good luck, right? Like there's just more and more stories of the wait times, and me and Two's once again on the mashup. That's another trend you saw: people dying in the waiting room, waiting for life saving, and you're just like, this is only going to get worse because the problem isn't being addressed; it's actually being added to, right? So there's when you come back to the patterns of life, I'm always interested when we sit down, because of what you see. And you are a good gauge of me. You're kind of like what is that? A bellwether, right? Kind of moderate. I'm like, Two's Chuck is fired up today.
Chuck sees
Because
the culmination of where things are heading, and I'm angry. I'm as angry at that I'm able to, and I could be wrong. I'm no amazing Kreskin, but I can see the patterns happening.
Yeah, but you speak
there.
for a segment of the population. Like I've by sitting in this chair, it's just like I'm closing in on 1,000 podcasts, John. Like it's kind of shocking to me because it's kind of when you add discipline to your life and you just start consistently, like it doesn't feel like I've done 1,000. I don't think there's any. Well, I mean, I think it's a pretty cool mark to get by.
Yeah.
But like I just keep going and you just keep, and one day it'll be 12,000 or whatever, right? If I keep on with this. So, talking to people who are being screwed by the government or screwed by other human beings or on and on and on, that did a number on me for a while because I just got so frustrated. But I'm the one, Jordan Peterson got interviewed by a lady, and she basically asked, like, why aren't other people seeing this? Or why? He's like, well, you're kind of the tip of the spear. You're the one who's going to see a lot of it because you're digging into it.
Yeah.
And so I've thought about that for a while. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And so, like, I've started to remove myself more and more from social media because I don't need to be
worked up and angry.
And I find, what do we engage with the most? It's like, well, things that get you fired up. Can you believe this? This is unbelievable.
I probably peruse it now for about 5-10 minutes a day, and then I have to I'll post a Chuck Shitty meme or something, like just a.
But like the liberal,
but I can't anymore.
The liberal government doing Bill C8 or C5 or all these Cs, and you're like all this stupid stuff going on. Yeah, what did we expect was going to happen? We got the liberals back in. Did we all of a sudden think they're just going to change and not try and put in the same stupid crap?
Yeah.
No, I think we could all agree. So it shouldn't shock us. It doesn't mean you should not do anything about it. But it's like, yeah, they're going to keep trying to do these things until they get them through. And then when they get them through, they're going to continue to push even further. And they're going to continue to call us all names. And they're going to continue to label us and point out things and try and frame it in a way that this is life for the rest of my life.
This is it. And this is not what I went to war for.
Right.
And I don't mean to say that like, oh, I'm entitled to anything extra. I'm not. Me doing what I did.
No, but you're in a.
But
I tell you this all the time. You're a certain segment of this population that has a very unique perspective.
It feels to me, and when I heard Mike Rood say it too, like I did not go to fucking war to come back for my country to turn into this, and I sure shit didn't. Like, no, that nostalgic, everybody has the happy memories of what we kind of were before. That's gone. It's gone and it ain't coming back. And there's no fixing it. There isn't a fix to bring it back because it's not going to be a political fix. And I hate saying that because it sounds, cryptically apocalyptic or something like that. I'm not trying to be that guy either. I'm not trying to enhance the spice that could potentially happen. Not at all. But if somebody has a way of, oh, Chuck, we got to get into the ground roots and do it at the ground roots. I get that too. But that isn't going to work against the machine that's going to get you kicked off the internet for posting a meme.
Has billions of dollars at its disposal, legal counsel, all the things.
Your ground roots work in your community is absolutely necessary, but is not going to have any effect whatsoever on the bigger picture. That means how much you're paying for groceries, gas, the freedoms that you get to have or don't have. That's not going to have any effect. I've
been using, this is the way my brain's been thinking about things lately. Having young kids, every single day, they push on the boundaries. Every single day. And they find new ones to push on where you're like, what are you doing?
Mine are in their 30s and they push
So you have your lines as a parent, right? Yeah. No, and if you give an inch, they take a mile. So then you're like, nope, that is a boundary. No, we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, society and maybe the government currently reminds me of a kid. They're going to keep pushing against their boundaries until we draw a line in the sand and we say no, no more. This is ridiculous. And when you go back to what the U.S. did and their founding fathers, I feel like they put really good lines in the sand.
Very good language in that.
Did they get it perfect? No, I'm sure. When you listen to Charlie Kirk talk about it, it's like, yeah, there's things we could readdress with the lines drawn, but our lines are a moving target right now. And so what you see happening is the lines being constantly shifted and moved, and the arguments being made, and it's like, no, we just have to put the lines in the sand, folks. And if you when they push on it, it's like, no, we don't go past her.
But they find a reason, and
they constantly construct different ways to get around it.
The convoy was one where we pushed back. The aware part of the nation pushed back. They did push back, and then what happened? Well, we all know what happened. I don't have to go into that.
Well, anytime you push back against the machine, the likely outcome of it is that you're going to face a harsh reaction from the machine, which will not make sense compared to anyone else, but it's a statement. And so if you stand up to said government, chances are you're going to face the wrath of said government, especially if you're successful. That is the trucker convoy.
Yeah.
So they've picked out certain people, and there they are.
Yeah.
And if you take any standing up to the government on anything, take this, censorship bill. If it comes and I go, I'm just not going along with it, the likely outcome of that is going to be the worst thing they can do to me to make a statement.
Yeah.
And once again, they'll do that to not just one person. They'll pick on probably
the bulk of you will be gone.
Right.
Or made examples
and the person who pushes the hardest against it, they'll try and silence the most. That's the likely outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just go, there's no day in the future where all of a sudden you snap fingers and everything goes back to being just, I don't even know what perfectly right means. I just think of freedom of speech. I think it's just leaving me alone. I think of a lot of different conservative...
A time when we didn't even have the discussion about freedom of speech in this country because it was never a threat on our horizon, or them coming and taking our guns, because it was never a threat on our horizon. We're in those threat periods now. We're in that threat queue. We're in that fatal funnel going in the door, and there it is. They're taking it from us. They are actively trying to do it, and I don't see anybody stopping it. It goes back to this ad hoc constitutional monarchist bullshit thrown together government. Well, we fell apart from the British thing, so we're going to pull a little from there. And the Americans had a couple things, and the Greeks had a couple things, and look at what we put together. No, that's like a really fucked up stew that is not going to work in the long term, because precisely we have different values across this country. We always have. They're just more...
They're becoming more pronounced by the day.
They're becoming more pronounced and enhanced, I think, on top of being... People are really digging in now where they stand. Really going to dig in. And I'll say it again. That memory, that faint nostalgic echo of what we were as a nation, I miss it too. I went to war for it because I thought it was important enough to try and defend and do all the greasy things I did and saw over there. And giggled while I did it because I thought, hey, the country asked me to come over and do some stuff. No problem. And here we are now? No. My country ends at the end of my fucking driveway. Alberta and Saskatchewan hopefully find a path forward with no spice, just legal nice, and we go on about our way. Become the richest country in the fucking world, or republic, whatever you want to call us. And we get away from this mess, because this mess is sinking us all. You talked about a lifeboat earlier, or a ship in the middle of the storm. Well, I'd be tying people to fucking bricks and tossing them over at this point if I was stuck on this boat with them, because they're sinking us all. We aren't going to make that safe port. Not in the condition we're going. I've seen enough patterns of life to know some are going to make it and some ain't. And I don't mean that in like a terminal sense. I mean, people are going to go to those hard decision points when they can no longer feed their families, when they can no longer be employed and have, I'm not talking about I get to go to vacation to Mexico twice a year. I'm talking they can't afford to keep their vehicle. They can't afford anything. They're kicked out of where they are because the bank repoed it or their landlord kicked them out. We are in that period of the game right now. When we get to the line clearing bench brawl, we'll see what happens if it gets to that point. Very, very soon, I think we're going to get to that percolating kettle explosion. That's just me. I hope it doesn't, but I don't see any way that it doesn't. The other me, the jovial me before, could always be like, well, I think Pierre could fix this. I always put my well, this could happen. Those could happens and might happens and hopes. No. And I'm not a doom and gloom kind of guy at any point generally. All I'm saying is I'm preparing and have been preparing and more earnestly preparing now for whatever is on the horizon. I don't know what that is, but it ain't good.
Well, speaking of maybe a lighter note to end on, October 25th is Prophet River's Customer Appreciation Day. And Rod Giltaca is going to be in town for that. And then the following day, October 26th, I wish I had all the details. But regardless, there's going to be an opportunity to come shoot some guns with Chuck, Jamie, and Rod Giltaca, and myself. I'm working on twos because I think twos would be fun to have there as well. Just at a shooting range, we're gonna make sure it's like super safe and like professional and all the things. This isn't like bring your bazooka and go out in the backwoods, which I'm sure would be fun as well. But that'd probably be for a small select group. I've been just thinking a lot about the different lists. I'm concerned about being on a list, but if I'm real with myself, I'm on lists. And the CCFR, I really appreciate Rod Giltaca and the work him and Tracy Wilson are doing.
Her too.
And so I'm like, well, why don't you come to Lloyd and we'll see if we can't get you 2 more signatures, and hopefully it's 200, but start somewhere, because that number of 2-point-some million gun owners,
2.5, I think. Yep.
Their numbers should be 400,000, 700,000. It should be a giant number that, as a politician, you can't look away from. Instead, it's fantastic numbers. I just think it needs to grow. So we're going to have you guys in town October 26th. If anyone's interested, you could shoot me a text, and as I get the details, I'll put that out. But either way, that's going to be a fun day, I think. I
can see if Jamie can still shoot or not.
Yeah.
Old Sniper Jamie. He was a sniper, and he can shoot.
Well, it's gonna be a fun day, I think, and a healthy day, right? Like I look for healthy days more than focus. You got to be realistic. I always think you're pragmatic in the way of patterns of life, and seeing them and realizing, well, that's not good. But it doesn't do me any good to get into a mode of fear. And so, to me, to put on a few healthy things and bring people together and the community together.
Agreed.
Is healthy for us all. And then you just never know what comes out of that, what opportunities come out of that.
Always
for people.
Something does when you put them on. Yep.
And so, to me, I always come back. I think I'm becoming firmer and firmer in my resolve, Chuck, is it starts with you. And by you, I mean all of you listening, myself, and you got to figure out your lines. And then you got to go to work on them, because they're not easy. Discipline is not the easiest thing to just implement into life.
Hardest thing. Yep.
And if you can do that, well, maybe we got 50 more trucks running around, and then maybe we got 200 more whatever's running around. And when problems arise in your area, you're the one with the ability and the opportunity to stand strong against and be like, no, we're just not doing that. That doesn't make any sense. And the more of those people we can put out there in the most positive way, the eternal optimist in me says we can get our way out of this. Now, that might be as an independent Alberta or Western Canada or whatever. I can't.
That's, to me, the only path forward, yeah.
But the only way things like that happen is more individuals taking onus of their lives and themselves and going to work on it and getting better and getting more firm and confident and standing and peacefully disagreeing with whether it's government or other individuals in their community, and just being like, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
We need more of Charlie Kirk, not less of him.
Absolutely.
And certainly in where we're sitting today, time seems short. We started this conversation 4 years ago, and every year comes closer to 2032. If nothing pops off before then, I just think we're going to be in an inflection point sooner than later. Whatever event, whatever catalyst pushes that, we can all see them, as you've been pointing out. We can all see it. We can all just use our eyes and notice something's changing. And so go to work on yourself. Lift something heavy every day and get better and
be less shitty.
Yeah, and good things can come of that.
Absolutely. And I don't. At the end of all this ranting I've done today, my intent isn't to like fear induce or like, this is all happening tomorrow kind of. That's not the intent of this. The intent of this is if you can just do, like you said, much better than I can, do something to take ownership of what you can, whether that's just in your own home, your community, whatever the hell it is. Just, it's the only pushback you have at this point, and hopefully can still have in a year or two from now, depending on what new laws they pass, to take more away from you, because nothing they're putting in there is to help you. Nothing that they're passing is to help you or keep you safer. That's just what all dictatorships say. You'll be safer if we do this. Mm-hmm. We're here to help. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, find out where you rely heavily on somebody who isn't you and start addressing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Can you manufacture it, cook it, clean it, store it, buy it, learn it? All of those things. Just do a little bit, something, improve something. I use health as much as I can because I've said before, like you get to that point where like t-shirts feel like they're broken. Something's wrong with it. And then you're like, oh, it's not them, it's me. You do something about it. You're like, fuck, well, I could do something or not do something. I choose to do something, and lots of people do. And it's a good way to, like Jordan Peterson said in his book, make your fucking bed. Well, I don't think he swore, but like, make your bed. Just start with that. Clean your room, make your bed. Take a little ownership of something small, and then the rest is going to kind of become a pattern.
I've listened to a lot of different motivational speakers, I guess, or philosophical speakers talk. And like little wins, you want the big win, but like little wins really can change the course of your life.
100%. That's where it starts.
I always, like alcohol this year. I wrote about that in 2018, and I've been terrified of it for 7 years. And it's funny. Here I sit, and I'm like, man, I really built that up into a big thing. But it took a lot of little wins to get to where I'm like, okay, I can go do this. And for whatever it is out there, I think that's don't beat yourself up too much, because you want to turn into Chuck Prodonick or whoever.
You
overnight.
Don't want to be me.
Well, but like you want to understand how to handle yourself. You want to be a shout out to Kevin Damon. You want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I think it's double black belt. You want to be able to do things like that. Well, then just start, and don't be too hard on yourself. Learn and grow, and you'll find if you just start in a year's time,
look where you can be.
Well, look where you can be.
That's the thing about the little win. Everybody wants to go for that quick fix, big win. Look what I can show, get some clout for. It doesn't work that way. You got to
actually, the win is in the process.
Yes.
Right.
The discipline win is the process.
Yes, because that'll teach you so much about life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no wise philosopher. I just like the things I'm learning as I go. I'm like, you just start. Me and Dustin, we biked Canada years ago. I remember looking at the map of Canada and going, how on earth are we ever going to get across here? And we biked 40 kilometers, I think, the first day out of 6,000 and change, and my brain was doing a number on me. And Dust just, I forget how his line goes. Apologies, Dust. It was something along the lines, just get on the pedals, start biking. Stop looking at the big, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you bike a country? Mm-hmm. Get on the pedals and start pedaling. 1 kilometer a day still is one less you got to do. And you'll find as you get better at something, then you can do more. And then that starts to speed up. And all of a sudden, 69 days, you're across the country. It's like, holy crap, how'd you do that? Got on the bike every day, and just bit off a little bit more every single day. And all of a sudden, if you approach any skill that way or learning anything, It's funny how far you can go if you set your course. You know, you point at a goal and you just aim for it.
And just take a chunk every day.
Yeah.
It's the same with working out. People be like, oh, I'm already so fat and weak and all this stuff, or it's too much, or they'll find an excuse. But if you do it for 3 months consistently, just something for 3 months, you will notice a difference and improve your eating habits a little bit. I'm not saying you got to be Jocko Willink out there, or some other, Goggins or who. You don't have to be that. They're great guys to look to for some inspiration for sure. But or there's a bunch out there. But start something. Do something. And in 3 months, I guarantee you will be like, this is fitting different. I feel a little different. I'm not winded going up the stairs. All those things. Just start at something. And that's the hardest part. You trick yourself out of start. I had to put in a home gym because I was tricking myself out of it's cold out there. It's hot out there. It's nice out there. I found an excuse not to go. When I did go, I was kind of just showing up. I put in a nice home gym. I bit the bullet, spent the money, and I have no excuse. It's across the hall. It's there.
Yeah, fight the war in your mind.
Fight the war in your mind. That's it.
Yeah.
As soon as you do that, good things can happen. And you're going to have setbacks. You will have setbacks. But what you do after the setback is really what determines what goes forward. That's where you learn and grow.
My wife, so we went for hockey season, football, all the sports, right, that we get our kids into, and school and everything, right? It's just starting to it's going to go to fever pitch here in the next couple months, and it's going to be busy. So we did a date night this past weekend.
Aww.
And yeah, and it was nice. It was nice just to go and have a day away from the kids and just spend some time together. I can't remember what the question was, but she was talking about one of the things that kind of taught her that we could get out of some different situations is she came out of school with student debt.
Mm-hmm.
And when she looked at that number, she's like, we're never going to pay this off. And then we just started looking at it, and we started to do different things well before I was podcasting, right, to just try and chip away at it. And it's funny, over a course of, I don't know what it was. Was it 3 years? Was it 5 years? I can't remember now. And one day we're sitting on the back deck. We opened a bottle of champagne because we'd paid it off. And it was such a sense of accomplishment.
It is, yeah.
And to me, if you set your target on something that is a big, oh man, this is going to be tough.
That. Yeah.
You can do that. And once you do things like that, it's what biking taught me. Impossible is nothing. It doesn't mean you can go climb Mount Everest tomorrow.
No.
Don't be maybe
unrealistic. Yeah, you're not all.
But also, if that's your goal,
yeah, then make it happen.
Then make it happen,
Yeah.
and put the things in place to go do said things. Or if you want to go, whatever it is,
In every march or run I was in the Army, or march especially, carrying whatever ridiculous weight we were carrying, and for whatever ridiculous distance we were going, at whatever ridiculous speed we were going, you'd reach a point in your head where you're like, I can't fucking do this. I can't keep this up. I can't. And then you'd go one more step, one more excruciating step, and then you'd be like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to do it,
Well, it's funny if you get past that point of exhaustion.
Yeah.
It's funny what second gears you can find where you almost enjoy the pain. It's a weird feeling. I don't get that a whole lot anymore because I don't, obviously, with kids and everything, I just don't seem to put myself into those situations anymore. But biking for sure. Our longest day was 200 and some kilometers. And at one point you're just like, what's another 10K?
Yeah.
Whereas if you only do 40K, 10K seems like quite the accomplishment.
Yeah.
And you just get to a point where you're like, whatever. I'm exhausted, but the legs are still going, and if I just keep pedaling, no matter the pace, eventually we're going to add on another 10K or another 15 or whatever it is. And man, biking, when I look back on it, that was probably one of the best things I ever did. For
sure. You find out, like you said, you find out what you really have in your tank, what you can do. And people would be surprised at themselves. I'm shocked at some of the stuff I've been able to do just because I've been lucky to be surrounded by people for most of my careers, the two that I, were what they were, that just didn't have quit. It wasn't even a thing they understood doing. And so when you're near people like that, I had that example, I had those examples. But that thing is bleeding, that's broken, and you're still going. I'm lighting up another smoke and I'm still going. And I literally had these examples of guys with a broken thing or a bleeding that, and this is dangling, and you're like, How are you still going?
Before I let you out of here, I'm rewatching The Terminal List.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Great show.
I just finished the first season because there's a second season out.
The one with the other guy in it, yeah. Whatever his name is.
Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt is the main guy in the
but
first season, and then the second season
it's the other guy. What the hell's his
Kirsch? Kish?
name? Taylor Kitsch.
Yes. Anyways,
Great show, yeah.
what do you think of those the Terminal List? Not the you always come back to military and whether
It's a good
realistic.
show. I mean, I like Chris Pratt because he's open about his faith too. Like he's one of a rarity in Hollywood. But I think it's a well done show, for a show. And there's some good drills in there, shockingly. Like they had some good technical advisors. I actually think they had some SEALs on there, from what I understand, showing them some shit.
I was wondering, he's going up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. First season, anyways. Chris Pratt.
Mm-hmm.
He's going up a stairwell, and he keeps switching his handle.
Yeah.
Or how his hands are on the gun.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you become so good at handling a weapon
Offhand shooting, yeah.
that you can do both? Because it's important.
You can, yes. You can.
Is that like an elite thing, like the Connor McDavid of?
We learn that stuff. We do that stuff. They do it. What we would learn as a chainsaw, they learn as a scalpel. So that tier, like the SEALs and JTF and high tier dudes, that to them is like, it's just what they do.
It's like swimming to a fish or
it's
something.
breathing to
right?
them.
Yeah,
For us, doing it at the infantry, regular line infantry level, yeah, you can do it. And occasionally you might do it, but honestly, you just compensate for the wrong angle. You just figure out a different
workaround.
Yeah, it just is what it is, right? Because we already understand that we're not JTF guys, we're not SEAL guys, and that's you have to have that. But I mean, as far as watching him do his drills, that guy did some John Wick drills for a long time to learn that because he did them seamlessly,
yeah.
He did. I appreciate that about a show.
Did
like
I tell
that.
you I got to shoot my first handgun this year?
No.
I've never shot in a handgun before. I don't think that. Like I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be the first time in the States. I was awful. I couldn't hit a target. I was just like, this is frustrating.
It's hard.
Like I didn't realize how hard. with a long rifle to hit a target. We've been shooting gophers forever.
It's literally just right clicking. Yeah, it's easy.
And I'm not saying I'm hitting the bullseye every time, but you're hitting the targets. Handgun, man, I was like,
that's a skill set.
I'm like, this is now. In fairness, only what did I shoot? Maybe 30 rounds.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a crazy amount. And I assume it's like anything. You start shooting more, you start to get it. But I was like, okay, I missed it. I'm like, that was. I did not feel that coming. So then and then you miss again, and then you miss again. And you're like, what am I doing wrong here? I thought of you and Jamie when I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I can't even. This is frustrating. I'm like, how is it that I'm missing a target like that? That should, Anyways, shooting a handgun was.
It's unbelievably much more difficult and skill intensive in most ways than long gun usage. I mean, long gun usage is fairly intuitive after a period. Handgun usage is, you'd be shocked. I mean, again, in long gun fights I've seen, a buddy of mine was literally he mag dumped, the Taliban mag dumped, and they were only 30 feet apart, and he got the guy barely got the guy. It was panic shooting, right? And the Taliban missed with his 30. And it's just, you're only 20 feet apart. You could throw a rock and hit each other.
Yeah.
But it's and then you get a handgun going. You watch all these John Wicky movies.
I know, and that's probably why I got set up for failure.
Yeah.
You watch John Wick, and you're like, it is not pew pew.
Were you holding it sideways the way you should? Or no? No, I'm kidding.
Chuck, appreciate you coming in
buddy.
and doing this. And, we'll have you back here in October. And if anyone's interested in it, shoot me a text, October 26th.
Thanks for letting me rant, brother.
Yeah, you betcha. And I guess for anyone in October 25th, they do have Customer Appreciation Day at Prophet River too. So make sure if you're making any purchases, selfless plug on my own podcast, but if you're making any purchases at Prophet River, use coupon code SMP because you do get added into draws and a lot of wonderful stuff. So either way, thanks for hopping in, Chuck.
Thanks.